Welcome to the GRF Board Candidates Forum. Before I introduce the candidates for election this year, I'd like to explain to everyone how this is going to work. Each of the candidates are going to be asked the same questions. They will each have 90 seconds to provide an answer. We will rotate who answers the question first among the 6 candidates. This is not a debate, so there will be no time for rebuttal. But at the end of asking the questions, each candidate will receive 90 seconds for closing remarks, and they can choose any topic they want to for those remarks. Deborah Rose, who's sitting here in the front row, will be raising a paddle at 20 seconds to indicate that that's how much time they have remaining. Once the question period is ended at 90 seconds, you will see the red side of the paddle. At that point, we ask that you wrap up. Otherwise, you're going to hear time from me. All of the candidates, you have a microphone in front of you. Please remember to turn it on when you answer your question and speak closely. About this close to the microphone would be great. And then turn it off when you're done so that we don't have interference between the microphones. And also, I'm going to ask the question once, but if anyone would like me to repeat it in between, I'd be happy to do so. Just let me know. All right, now we're going to introduce our candidates. They are sitting in alphabetical order by district. We're going to start with District A, which has 3 candidates: Melanie Rose, Diana St. James, and Roy Yang. Then we have District D, Leanne Hamaji. From District C, we have Ted Bentley. And from District F, we have Cheryl Hines. Leanne, Ted, and Cheryl had no opposition, so they have now won the election by acclamation. District A will have an election between Melanie, Diana, and Roy. Now we're going to start our questions. We'll begin here with Melanie. What is the driving force that makes you want to be a GRF board member?
Thank you. Rossmore has been a part of my life for about 12 years. I always admire the peacefulness here. It is beautiful. Then about a year ago, I had an experience here that left me a bit rattled and confused. Rossmore is very complex. It's not easy to navigate or easy to have your problem solved. In my situation, I think I did what a lot of people do. You find yourself attending board meetings, committee meetings. I even joined a committee. And throughout this journey and the wonderful people that I met along the way, it became very clear to me that my experience was not unique. Rossmore seemed to be drifting from its values. While this can be a wonderful place, and it really can, it can also be a very stressful place to live, and many people are stressed. In a sense, I uncovered a wonderful community, made great friends, and then also discovered within myself a relentless driving motivation to repair, to fix, and to speak when not everyone has a voice. I want to return Rossmore back to this community, back to the people who live here, and invest not only their money, but their hearts and their lives. This is our home. I am here for them to be their advocate. That's what drives me. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Diana?
Hi, I'm Diana St. James. I haven't met all of you. I've met some of you. So, howdy. For the last several years, my time has pretty much been devoted to community service projects. And let me do a sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. So my time and energy was done for serving the folks of Contra Costa County that needed food and needed clothing. So I worked with a nonprofit to working with corporations to get clothes, to donate, to get food from local resources, to get them to 501c3s so people could eat. I also worked with underserved children and meeting their needs. During my 20 years of residency here, I have appreciated the work of those willing to volunteer their time to give us the best Rossmore experience possible. When I was asked to join the board, and it kind of came out of the blue, I found myself having a surplus of time and energy, and I thought, now is the time to give back, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you, Diana. Roy?
Yes, my name is Roy Yang. I'm very new here, roughly about 12 months, and I'm a retired structure contractor. During last year, I have a lot of extensive contacts with Rossmore, Rossmore has been a very beautiful community that attracted me to be here. But then I realized there's a lot of problem too. To maintain another 60 years would be difficult without doing something. So I volunteered in to do certain things, and especially for G11 buildings, the front as well as in the back on both of them. The only reason I think about this is if I do not do it now, 10 years from now, physically I may not be able to handle it. Then I will sit and feel sorry. That's the only reason I want to be here.
Thank you, Roy. Leanne?
Yes, I'm Leanne Hamaji. I've lived in Rossmore for 8 years, and mainly the reason I'm running for re-election is because I want to give back to this community. I have always been involved in community issues. I started an education foundation in Pleasant Hill, and I feel like I have the ability to really help move things forward as far as projects. And my operational analysis background allows me to be very analytical about GRF issues and give some constructive criticism to help move things forward and to make very important decisions based on facts. And that's it.
Thank you, Leanne. Ted?
Hi, I have lived here for 21 years, and when I retired about 8 years ago, I started getting more involved in things that are happening around Rossmore, clubs and those kind of things. And then through the clubs, I got involved with GRF. And so I decided that I could, there were some things that I wanted to work on. And so I decided to run 3 years ago, and what I really wanted to see done was the art studios. They had been on the books for a long time. Nothing was being done with them. It's one of the things that I really wanted to get accomplished when I was here, and we have done that. Water conservation was another one. They had already started working on a SWRF, and we were talking about different aspects of it. But the real savings that we found came with just looking how we can save water around Rossmore. And the golf course has done an amazing job on the amount of water that they've saved and kept their budget way down on the expense of using East Bay mud water. MOD was another thing I wanted to get involved in. I wanted to have a place for them to have a better place to live, and I'm still working on that, and the budget. Currently, I want to work with the MOD, the food service program that's coming up for members. This is a new study that we're going to be doing, and then still continue with the budget.
Thank you, Ted. Cheryl?
I'm Cheryl Hines, and I've lived here for 7 years now. And before I joined the GRF board, I was on my mutual board. So really had this didn't really understand what GRF did, and was very pleased when I was asked to be on the GRF board and realized that my background in public finance was very well suited to working on the board because of the project aspects and also the budgetary aspects. The things that are really important to me are, as Ted was saying, the water conservation efforts and also the efforts to get more solar power in place. I think that's very important to realize that the GRF board is not just here for the now, but it's here for the future of Rossmore as well. And I look forward to continuing to serve on the board with that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. The second question will start with Diana. What are your top 1 or 2 goals as a GRF board director?
Okay, thank you. With 40 years of experience in the business world, I have a very broad range of skills that I've had to develop. From operating a business unit to budget, to developing new products, to serving as a corporate officer of a Fortune 500 company. I'd like to bring this experience to the board to find ways to get more for less. My years at major banks in a highly competitive environment taught me excellent discipline to be creative in bettering the bottom line while improving the experience of the customer. Improve processes, employ technology, and establish quality assurance goals. I'd like to share my knowledge and perspective to augment the talent already on the board.
Thank you, Diana. Roy?
Yes, I have a 3 instead of a 1 or 2. Number 1 is the drainage. The drainage causes the erosion, and the people may not realize at the Rossmore yet, but I have deeply noticed about all the details. And I'm in charge also for the M1 doing the drainage improvement right now. And that will benefit all the G11 building at the Rossmore. It's not only just Mutual One. Number 2 is the insurance. We heard about a lot of story about the insurance, but I read the news 2 weeks ago. That's making me realize there's a different story. The California State Insurance Commissioner increased the insurance fees for last year, but then the insurance company wants more. And he says very clearly, show me your financial statement so I can adjust it. So far, no insurance provided. So that's another story. Second, also on the insurance, right now the property value is going down. And so I want to do that. And third one is get a auditing going on, which is the transparency to the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Leanne?
Yeah, I actually have 3 goals. I have a lot of goals, but I highlight the 3. The first one is to stay within budget, which we are. Our capital budget, our operational budget, they're within the black. And we as a board are very conscious of making sure that happens every year. The second goal is to keep Rossmore desirable and competitive for new members coming in. It's very important that we attract new residents because those new residents are paying that membership transfer fee, which funds our amenities and major improvements. So we need to constantly look at our ongoing maintenance and enhancements to keep us competitive. The third, and also to keep us competitive, but that leads to high property values, which I know we're all concerned about. The third goal is difficult, but Rossmore is complex, and I would like to work to try to translate how Rossmore works to residents so that they fully understand the complexity. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Ted?
I agree with a lot of the things Leanne said, and I still, like I said before, mod is really important to me. Finding a new home for that. I'd like a one-stop shop for Rossmore where we don't have to go all over the place to get things done. You just walk in the door and everything that you need is in one location. The pickleball courts that we had found a home for was twofold. It created a place for solar panels to be on. The solar panels were going to be in the parking lot and blocking the view of the Dollar House. That's part of the magic we have here, having that historic house. So that was a huge benefit of being able to have that there and being able to now put the solar panels on top of the pickleball court, and that will help with that amenity and make it nicer for everybody here in Rossmore. And insurance is a big thing, and the insurance is driven by the whole world. I don't know if how much Rossmore can have an effect on it, but I do know that the board has been talking with legislators, state and federal levels, to be able to bring it to their attention and to lower it nationally, which will affect us here in Rossmore.
Thank you, Ted. Cheryl?
I would share a lot of the goals that I've heard here, but I think one of the most important to me is to foster a better relationship, a working relationship with the mutuals and with GRF. I think that creates a very cohesive and powerful way to work through some of the issues that we have here in Rossmore. I would point to the insurance issue as a very good example of how productive working together can be. We had a very amazing group of people on the mutual level who focused on the insurance. We were able to join with them from the GRF and go out and talk to some of the legislators who, interestingly, didn't realize how much of an impact it could have as far as people being able to get loans for property and some of the other issues. So that would be one of my key issues. I like to also encourage participation. I think it's human nature for all of us to maybe complain a little bit too much and not participate. And so I'd like to see people get more actively involved in our committees, in task force, and that type of thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl. Melanie?
Thank you. In my opinion, the decisions GRF makes will be the single largest influence on your experience here. My number one goal is to put the well-being, wants, and needs of our residents front and center, ensuring that this, our home, is a world-class community as defined by residents. Naturally, this also involves fiscal responsibility. Now, GRF is a very interesting construct. It has two competing interests within it that it must manage. On the one hand, GRF manages Rossmore. It must create a desirable place to live, and it has to keep thousands of residents happy. It also runs our property management arm with 200+ employees and needs to keep them happy. Now, these two mandates are in conflict with each other, competing for the same fixed resources. For example, this could show up potentially like selling land to fund a very large expenditure such as new offices for the property management arm. And we have to think, is that in the best interests of the residents? I think it is imperative that GRF have a direct line to its residents to balance the influence coming from the property management arm and better manage that conflict. My goal is to ensure that we have those checks and balances, that we are always acting in the residents' best interest, making healthy, responsible decisions, and that this experience here is one of a world-class community. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Question 3, we will start with Roy. How do you see balancing the needs of residents who want the Rossmore amenities with residents who have financial constraints when it comes to budgeting for the coupon?
The financial constraint is going to be difficult for me to do anything, but I think we have an emergency fund to help the people who needs it. But on the other hand, there's a lot of waste has been done. That's the reason I get involved. And I hope I can improve those waste and reduce the coupon increase.
Thank you. Leanne?
Could you repeat the question?
You bet. How do you see balancing the needs of residents who want the Rossmore amenities with residents who have financial constraints when it comes to budgeting for the coupon?
Okay. The amenities basically come out of the capital budget. The capital budget is, the revenue for the capital budget comes out of the membership transfer fees from new residents. So those amenities can be maintained, large-scale amenities can be maintained through fees received from new residents. The operations budget is something that we heavily scrutinize every year. We welcome you to the budget meetings in September. Very exciting. What we do is we look at it line by line, basically by department, and we scrutinize all the proposed expenses that are coming for the year. The goal of that meeting is to keep the residents' GRF portion of the coupon as low as possible. We're very sensitive to the residents' financial constraints, and that is, during that budget process, that is one of the main goals for us, is to keep that coupon low. And again, that's the GRF portion of the coupon. So we can work for the residents who have financial constraints at the same time as we're enhancing and providing amenities. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Ted?
Okay, I agree with what Leanne said, so I'm not going to repeat just what she said. But I do have a comment about Rossmore and the way it operates on how GRF and MOD works. MOD wasn't always here. MOD was designed to give assistance to the mutuals to be able to get work done at even though we're nonprofit, we work at a zero profit style for the mutuals. So at the end of the year, any money that's left over, that goes back to the mutuals. So the 200 odd employees that are here working are really working for the membership at a nonprofit base to be able to get things done for them. On the yield study, we always have to look at all of the projects that we have to look at in the future, all the amenities that the people want. And if we don't look 10 years down the line from now of what we might have to do to be able to take care of the amenities and keep it the way we want a 60-year-old community to look fresh and natural, new all the time, and that is kind of the reason why we were looking at a yield study. So, but that's about all I have to say.
Good. Thank you, Ted. Cheryl?
Well, I want to emphasize 2 points that were brought up. One, Leanne aptly brought up that the transfer fees pay for the amenities. They pay not only for new amenities, but they pay for some boring stuff like replastering the pool and replacing the streets. And this is something I had no idea that was the case before I was on this board. I just assumed the city took care of the streets, and that's not the case. I also want to emphasize that we go through a very, very extensive budget process in September, and please come join us for the 2 days that we sit there and go through every department in the MOD infrastructure to see what's in their budget, what maybe could be cut in their budget, in an attempt to keep the coupon as low as possible. We understand that there are people in Rossmore that really have to budget just to make that coupon payment and keep their utilities going, and we're sensitive to that. And one of the things I'm very proud of is that despite this soaring insurance cost, we were able to keep the GRF portion of that coupon very low this year. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Melanie?
Thank you. I would love for us to reflect on what we do have. We currently have over 200 clubs and just about every activity you can think of. We have way more than any person could do in 1 week. And we need to slow down and take stock of what we do have and settle into maintenance mode. What we're doing now, we do take funds from the trust fund, but we also take out loans. Admittedly, maintenance is no fun. But if we don't stay on top of the maintenance, we're not going to keep what we do have in top condition. And I think a great example of this is we've spent a lot of money on studies in the 6-figure range. And among them is the study to see how we could retrofit the medical building. But just this month, we had the head of the tennis club come in and plead to the board to have the tennis courts resurfaced. And the board agreed, and we are doing those resurfacings. But what concerned me is how did we get to a point where we have our tennis courts in disrepair, and yet we're sort of looking at these other aspirational projects? We need to make sure that our foundational needs are being met. This puts the heavy burden on all of us. I also think we need to consider in the future, depending on our financial health, if we're going to need to do some sort of sliding scale pay option to make sure that people do not get put in financially unstable situations just to support amenities that they might not use. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Diana?
Okay, this question is a tricky one. If you have millions, a few $100s increase a month or a one-time assessment may not mean much. If you are constrained financially, it could mean having to leave your home. Since the goal of the GRF is to serve all the residents, I would use my business skills to be as efficient as possible to ensure that costs are managed as closely as possible. It would be heart-wrenching to force someone out of their home due to spiraling costs that might have been better controlled. Fortunately, I do agree with the incumbents here today that GRF has done a really good job of controlling costs on the coupon. For some residents, the increase in the coupon has been more from their mutual than for GRF. That's it.
Thank you, Diana. For question 4, we'll start with Leanne. Would you vote to commit GRF funds to a land use study to determine how much money Rossmore could gain from the sale of the community gardens and development of new condos on the hillside facing Terra Granada? Why or why not?
First, I'd like to clarify that the land use study was not created for that purpose that you stated. The land use study was to determine what is possible on a piece of land. That's it. There was no plan to build anything at that point. At this point, I'm not going to deflect. I'm not deflecting, but I want everybody to participate in the planning committee meeting tomorrow, 10:30, in the boardroom, for more information on the land use study. But I want to add that GRF bases everything on facts. The studies are the only way we can determine the facts. No resident would want us launching a project without studying the parameters of a project, because then you'll get into trouble. You'll get to a point that you didn't anticipate, you don't have an expert on staff to handle that topic, and your costs are going to escalate because you've got a change order midstream in a project. The studies we do, yes, they're expensive, but they set up the parameters that we have to pay attention to when deciding whether to proceed with a project. That is essential, and I think every resident wants us to make decisions based on facts.
Thank you, Leanne. Ted?
The medical center has 3 loans against it. We've loaned money to do Creekside, the event center, the gym, and rebuild and modernize those amenities for everybody. If something should happen to the medical center, like we sold it, there's a possibility that those loans, which are about $11 million right now, would be called in. And so how much money would we really make from that? But the biggest thing is if we don't have the medical center to be able to take a loan against in the future, you will have to figure out another way of getting money in Rossmore. It could be assessments, it could be selling off land, it could be something. But we have nothing in Rossmore that a bank will put a loan against. What is the bank going to do with the event center? They won't, so we have no way to get a secured loan. Interest rates will be high. This will drive a lot more money to us. And so I think that you have to kind of be able to look at the bigger picture and how it will affect everyone in Rossmore.
Thank you, Ted. Cheryl?
I think our priority here should be to maybe take a step back and look at all these pieces a little differently. We did the facilities master plan in 22, and we were just coming out of COVID. We didn't have any idea of some of the issues that Rossmore was going to face as far as this dramatic shift in the whole insurance industry, and some interest rates going up and a decline in some of the home sales. In light of that, we can't get the full replacement value for the insurance, and therefore we're unwarranted. We might have some sales ability, especially on the co-ops going. I think we also have to take a look at what is our debt capacity going forward to fund some of these projects. So I think it's not as simple as, do we proceed with this land use study or not? I think we have to, as a board, we have to be responsible to get all the information that we need in place in order to make some very, very important decisions here going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl. Melanie?
Thank you. And the short answer is no, I do not support a land use study. I believe this land to be our common areas and not to be sold. But the sole purpose of the land study is tied to the eventual goal of doing something with the land, be it a sale or building something on it. While this has been downplayed, we do have to look at this logically. The first consideration, why do we need the money? To fund projects. Second, are the projects crucial enough to warrant the sale of land? They are not. This is where we sometimes experience some of those competing interests. We have to recognize that our property manager needs funding for new offices in the neighborhood of $10 to $15 million. The board is assessing how to fund this project. The land sale is just one option that has been presented, along with either assessments or taking on substantial debt. And the reason these options are presented is because we do not have the funds to support this project. The projects are not fiscally responsible, full stop. It is causing way too many people a lot of stress to have this hanging over us. Full stop. This land use study is just not necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Diana?
Thank you. So this is another one that's clearly a very, very hot topic. And so I do a lot of walkabout Rossmore. I also am in many clubs, and I like to talk to folks who are out there. And this is an extremely unpopular item. People do not want to pursue this because they do not like the end product, which is perhaps the potential sale of assets. And for me, I'm on board with that. I'm not comfortable with selling assets. I much rather look at balancing what are the really imminent needs and where are other sources of funding. So I have to share with others here that, no, I can't be really in favor of this at this time. I have talked to the other board members to get their perspective, and with anything, I'm happy to do a deeper dive and to look at it, but at this point in time, I can't support this.
Thank you, Diana. Roy?
Yes. Fortunately, I've started with study, so I know the contour line the nature gives us to the Rossmore. And our infrastructure right now does not fit any additional increase on the mutuals because I thoroughly studied the Terra Granada. They left all their water into M2 and creating M2 problem and M2 creating problem to M1. So I'm wondering if a new development, what will be the impact? Instead of an expensive study first, if I get elected into the board, I'd be voluntarily to do the initial study because I already have a lot of evidence and data. So we can see what kind of infrastructure to support any new development.
Thank you. Leanne? Did you start this one? Sorry. Then we're good. All right, question 5. Ted, we'll start with you. The land use was the most popular question we got from residents, so we have a follow-up to what was just asked. If you support a possible sale of land, how do you address the concerns of residents who were told Rossmore is built out? If you do not support a possible sale of land, how do you propose we pay for maintaining and improving our facilities?
So, first of all, a long time ago, I bought a house in a new tract, and there was we were in the first part of the track with a lot of open space around us. And they told us that this is going to be like this forever. A couple months later, they started building homes all around us. And it's hard to say something is going to never be built on, and then another contractor comes along and they can build. So I don't know where Rossmore is all built out came from. We have 23 mutuals. All the mutuals have open space. Any one of these mutuals could decide to build another building, whether it's a G11 or whatever type of building that they want to put on it, but they could put whatever they want in there. If that board could vote and say, we are going to build more property inside our mutual, they can do that. I am really not for selling off open space, but I am for keeping Rossmore what we have to do to keep it the way we like it. And sometimes it's painful when you have to look at what you have to do to keep Rossmore the way it is. But the land use study is just a study.
Thank you, Ted. Cheryl?
I think that having the open space, having the beauty of Rossmore is something that's important to all of us. With that being said, I think we also have to face choices. And I think that we have to understand what those choices may be. So, no, I'm not necessarily advocating for the sale of land. I'm advocating for having all the pieces of the puzzle on the table when we go to put it together. And I think that that's something that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Melanie?
Thank you. I'm going to go back to maintenance, that has to be front and center, and our attention needs to be there and slow down on aspirational projects. Now, but we do need to start looking at future funding needs. I think we are way too dependent on the transfer fees, and we need to start thinking about new revenue streams. I can't help but notice how much of a revenue stream Rossmore is to other businesses. Millions are being made by real estate agents and developers as they turn over our properties. At the GRF level, we could manage a flat fee sales office. At the mutual level, GRF could support and help facilitate the mutuals buying back and rehabbing aged out properties and then share in the profit when it is flipped. There are other fees we could be charging developers based on their use of GRF resources. And while I appreciate that many businesses are making a ton of money at Rossmore, we need to start thinking in our own interest. Introducing other revenue streams is critical. I don't see insurance coming down anytime soon or expenses going down. We need to start thinking of other ways to generate revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
So again, this is a complicated issue. You know, how do you balance everybody's needs? You want people to have these lovely amenities to attract them, but you also need to deal with the residents who are just managing. So again, I think we need to look at these things very carefully. I don't have really much other to say than I said before. I'm not in favor of the land use investigation. I'm willing to look at a deeper dive, but I really think we need to look at other ways to get everything needs met.
Thank you. Roy?
Yes, I will be very hesitant to start any kind of land sale. I think there are ways to increase our income. Once we have the shopping center over there, and there are certain kind of rates increase there, or some other promotion way to get more business into there, that's one way to increase the income. The second one, which I deal with very closely, is question number 10. Our MOD, they are trying very, very much a lot of things, but they also waste a lot of money. And I would like to have a standard setup so the money is used wisely. And that's to balance it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne?
So many topics. The only time that I think that a land use study or a land sale of land would be considered is if, well, the things that we would do prior to that would be to increase revenue, find ways to do that, reduce the maintenance in the project list queue, and then stay within budget as much as possible. And if that was not possible, then you might need to consider the sale of land, but we're not there yet. We're not in that condition. GRF functions within the budget. Right now, they even have the ability to put aside hundreds of thousands of dollars for an emergency fund. So if you pay attention to the 10-year projection budget, capital budget that we talk about in the planning committee meetings, you will see that this year, all the projects are considered are within our revenue stream. They are covered by our revenue stream. So right now, we function in the black, we've projected out for the year, and it looks fine. The 10-year projection considers debt, it considers everything to determine what revenue is needed that year for the projects proposed that year. So I encourage you to come to planning and learn how to read the 10-year financial plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 6, we'll start with Cheryl. I heard a candidate mention wanting GRF to be treated like a common interest development, like Laguna Woods and Seal Beach, but that would mean no membership transfer fees. Do you support keeping the membership transfer fee? And if we didn't have those fees, how would you propose we raise capital funds for existing and new facilities and amenities?
I think the quick answer to this question is absolutely yes. Without those management transfer fees, that pays for all of our capital projects. And again, capital projects are not just the new fancy stuff we have around Rossmore, it's the boring stuff like maintaining the actual project infrastructure. So I think that they are incredibly important. I think one of the other things that we have to do as GRF is take a look at that structure and maybe consider raising some of those fees or implementing something that would have some of the flippers and some of those people pay a little additional into the management transfer fee fund. So absolutely yes, I would advocate for keeping those fees.
Thank you, Cheryl. Melanie?
Thank you. And I think this was me who brought the topic up. So to clarify, GRF is self-identifying as a community service organization not governed by Davis Sterling. And so it is my belief that GRF is in fact a common interest development governed by Davis Sterling. Now, and as members of GRF, we are all afforded those protections under Davis Sterling. And so what's important to think about is that all 3 Golden Rain Foundations were created by the same person. We all have the same trust agreement. Both Seal Beach, Laguna Woods are CIDs, and both charge transfer fees. So there's a little bit of history and context here. When the courts deemed Seal Beach to be a CID and subject to Davis Sterling, both Laguna Woods and Walnut Creek Golden Rain Foundations sponsored a bill which became a law which guaranteed that all 3 could charge transfer fees. But I get where the misunderstanding is. In the past, GRF has put forward messaging that our ability to charge transfer fees is dependent on not being classified as a CID, and that is just not the case. When we do become classified as a CID, we will still be able to charge transfer fees in the exact same manner that we do now, and the other 2 Golden Rain Foundations do as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
Yep, I agree with the lady at the end. This is an easy one. Yes, we want that membership transfer fee, absolutely. And yes, I also agree that there's ways we could look at it to improve it, such as the fact that, flippers right now don't pay the membership transfer fee. That's something we could look at, but no, we want that fee.
Roy?
Yes, I think it's very simple. It's called fairness. when a newcomer comes here, they enjoy all the amenities here, they should pay a fee for it. And that membership transfer fee just for that. And so when we build more in the future, a newcomer comes in, they also should to pay a fee. That's very fair in the life, and I support that. And I have been in Laguna Woods 5 times. It didn't move me to move there. So I only come here once, and that decided to make me to move here. It's totally different. So I would like to people understand, think about the fairness. You get something in the past, you also have something in the future, somebody to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne?
Yes, I am in favor of supporting the membership transfer fees paid by new residents, and into addressing increasing revenue. Last year, the board put together a staged fee schedule for membership transfer fees that goes up $500 every year, correct? Yes. So that increase in the membership transfer fee is built into our 10-year plan, because we know that on average we sell 450 homes per year, and that increased membership transfer fee is, with the 450, is included in our 10-year plan. Without a membership transfer fee, the coupon increases would be tremendous, unbearable, actually. And not only that, but there could be special assessments to do projects or to even provide long-term maintenance. It would also lead to possibly very difficult decisions. Land sale. If you didn't have that revenue stream of the membership transfer fee, it could be very, very negative. Could be bad.
Thank you. Ted?
When I first moved in here, it was a cash only. When you came here, you had to pay cash for your place. You paid the membership transfer fee, which is $5,000 at that time, and you had to show that you are financially set to live here for a long time. So you had to give them all your financials and everything. Since then, we have moved into a situation where we can do mortgages. And that has changed it. A couple of things I noticed when the mortgages came in is the cost of the properties went up very, very fast. And so, that being said, when COVID hit, everything changed after COVID. The cost of everything. Nobody can say that everything is the same after COVID as it was before. Go to the grocery store. See what the cost of everything is. It's going up all the time. And when we first decided to do a raise in membership transfer fee from $10,000 up, I wanted it to go to $15,000. When I saw what was happening in the future, I wanted to be able to get all the projects done that we want to get done in the future. So I wanted to go to 15. We settled on 12 with an increase of $500 every year. I still feel it should be 15, and then we wouldn't have to look at other ways to get money down the road, such as a land sale or something like that.
Thank you. Question 7, we come back around to Melanie. This question came from a mutual board officer. I'm appalled that we have employees working in the dilapidated MOD building, but I don't relish spending millions to build a city hall at the old medical center site either. What do you think is the best solution for the MOD building and why?
Thank you. The reality is that Rossmore was built a long time ago. Many of our facilities and homes, especially in First Mutual, are aging or aged out. While I'm sympathetic to the situation, I cannot support new offices for MOD, and I have 2 main reasons. 1, how can we support millions of dollars for new offices when the truth of the matter is we don't actually have the cash? We cannot afford it. We would have to sell land, take on debt, or have a special assessment. It is irresponsible to commit millions of dollars we do not have, and we need to slow down. My second point is I worry about investing in office buildings when companies around the world are reducing their office footprint. More and more people are working remotely. This shift in how we work is happening. To be honest, it would actually greatly improve our talent pool if we hired remotely. This shift in how we work will continue. In as short as 3 years, we might look at those offices and see actually who might be using them. I would rather we aggressively sought a tenant and provided them with incentives so that they would spend millions of dollars reconfiguring the building. Again, I am sympathetic. My own home is in much the same condition, but we just cannot afford new buildings for MOD. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
So this is a topic I would really like to spend a whole lot more time on. A lot of research needs to be done. You know, coming from the business world and noticing that, like Melanie, that, you know, office buildings are begging for tenants. I'd like to really ask a lot of questions of the staff. I'd like to fully investigate their needs. I would like to ask some very probing questions and do some analysis before a lot of funds were allocated for a solution. So first, I'd really like to dig deep into what's going on. And, you know, again, I've just started looking at running for the board recently. I'm not as fluent in a lot of these topics as I'd like to be, but what I can promise you is a whole lot of analysis and, you know, business acumen when I look at things.
Thank you. Roy?
Yes, when I first moved to here, I looked at those buildings, I was shocked. Those buildings all date back to World War II. And I agree they are in a condition not very present today, and also not energy facility. It's actually not meet most building codes today. However, on the other hand, we have a physical restraints. So I would like to see from both angles to find a solution in between for both of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne?
I don't yet have all the facts about those two situations. There's an approximate construction cost to renovate or to rebuild the MOD building at that location. It's outdated. We need to know current figures to determine how much it would actually cost to rebuild. We also don't know the exact cost for what the renovations at the old medical center would be. So research equals studies. I'm hoping the board will recommend a comparative study of the two sites to determine what the facts are so that we can make a sound and educated decision.
Thank you. Ted?
So the MOD building, by now you know, is a big thing to me. This is a corrugated metal building that was designed for storing lumber and horses and stuff in, and we converted it into an office building. Over the course of the years, the offices have expanded, and the walls have not. So the people are working shoulder to shoulder in there, trying to do the work that they have to do. I was surprised when we looked at a footprint of the medical center, and I was hoping that the medical center is 30,000 square feet. And I was hoping there'd be open space there that we could lease out and create an income revenue for Rossmore by leasing out part of it. They laid out all of the departments that are scattered all over the place in Rossmore under one location, and it took 30,000 square feet. If you've been up to MOD, that's a 10,000, 12,000 square foot building. Where are you going to put another 20,000 square feet of building up there to get everybody so that they can be working together and don't have to travel all over the place to manage their departments? It is really a tough dilemma to really think about what is the best solution, and that is something that I think that we'll be working on for the next 3 years.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I think this is one of the biggest challenges that's facing GRF right now. And I think that, that building up there is horrible conditions for working. And we definitely need to do something about it. Whether or not the medical office building is this big savior, I don't know. It also has its drawbacks. I would love to see a revenue source down there, and I think maybe we could creatively come up with a solution where you could do both. But again, we don't have all the facts together to make an outright opinion about what we should do with that right now. It needs a lot of study going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question will start with Diana. How would you address the insurance crisis that is affecting everyone in California, but especially here in Rossmore, where we're now deemed unwarrantable?
Yeah, this one wants me to hide under the bed. Wow, this is a huge issue. And even just reading on Nextdoor what our neighbors are facing, they can't get insurance. Their insurance is being canceled. So it's not just us. This is huge. This is really, really big. It's much, much bigger than Rossmore. And so this is something that we have to really address with lobbying our insurance commissioner, contacting legislatures. That's something we all can do individually by doing that, where we have to put pressure on these folk. And I do understand, I think the board is working directly with legislation. I would totally support that. That's a great thing to do. But this is much bigger than us.
Thank you. Roy?
I happen to know insurance quite well. And first of all, I support California's insurance commissioner who demand that all the insurance company provide their financial data to support their rates. And second, at the Rossmore, I think we should have an open policy to looking for multiple people to apply for the insurance for us instead of just a single one. Any business with open competition, something will be changed. The third, our property value has been decreased because I noticed my neighbor, the property value decreased at least 35%. So the total value of Rossmore is not $2.4 billion anymore. That is a dream. So let's face the reality and get all the respect to be solved. So we will try.
Thank you. Leanne?
As we know, this is just a huge issue across the country, especially California and Florida. It's going to require, in California, it's going to require legislation to change the whole relationship between insurance, between residents and insurance companies. So it's huge, and residents may be called on to act and lobby in that direction. But just so you know, just about 6 months ago, Dwight and Cheryl met with legislators, about four different legislators. Jeff Matheson attended as well. They met with the insurance commissioner, California Insurance Commissioner, and the city to bring this topic to light, and they got their attention. And now the legislators are paying more attention, and I really attribute that to our actions. I encourage everybody to attend the town hall on Friday. It's the insurance town hall. It will have Senator Glazer, a representative from Mr. Lara's, our insurance commissioner's office. The Gallagher Insurance Company will be there. It is going to give you all the details of what to expect next year and how things are going this year. So I encourage everybody to attend.
Thank you. Ted?
So we're, like I said before, we're Rossmore, and we can't affect the insurance system for the whole country. But we are doing what we can do by bringing attention to it. What we're doing locally, we have 750 acres of open space, and we have got grants to clear about 400 of those acres from the ladder fuel up and around the hillsides. You're going to see that, and probably later on this month, you're going to see a lot of smoke around Rossmore where they start burning all the burn piles that they've accumulated there. This is something that we're going to have to do as an ongoing project. Also, I'm a member of Firewise. That was set up by Jerome and John T. Staff members, and I have joined it also. And it's about zero zone clearance around housing so that when the insurance companies do come out here and look at our property, they will see that we're doing everything we can do to help protect us, and hopefully down the line, 3 years from now, that's going to have an effect on our insurance so that we can get a more favorable insurance policy.
Thank you. Cheryl?
So this is a big issue, and I think it's a big issue for all of California and also in Florida. There's no easy answer, and I think we have to continue to advocate on the legislative front. in support of bills like the HR 3777 and also for some relief for some of the cost of this insurance. One of the things I want to continue to support is Rossmore's ability to really showcase itself. And I think Ted brought up some of this. It's the whole getting recognized as a fire-wise community. That's huge. Taking care so that we have fuel breaks that are adequate. That's huge. We also put together this great view of Rossmore in a drone footage to show that it's not just a bunch of little wooden houses stacked up. There's a big golf course in the middle, and we even have our own pond that has been used by the firefighting community. I think those types of things are really important, as well as having the vast number of insurance companies that we have providing the master policy here to come on site and see exactly what we've done to mitigate the fire risk. Thanks.
Thank you. Melanie?
Thank you. As everyone's saying, this is pretty huge, and there are things that we just can't change. Climate and weather events are here to stay with us, and this is our new reality. And while we're doing, we really are doing what we can to mitigate risk, and I know the board is on top of this, and thank you for that. And I do believe eventually laws will have to acclimate to the new reality. And I would love to say I have the magic answer, but like you, what I have is questions. And so I have posed a question. I haven't gotten an answer yet to it, but I'm going to pose it again at the insurance town hall. I can't help but wonder if there's a possibility that our insurance is overvaluing our replacement value. Now, our master policy covers all, the replacement value includes all improvements if your mutual's bylaws mandate that. I checked with MOD, and all the mutuals on this policy do mandate that we replace up to the new improvements. And I wonder if we only had a policy, if we sort of collectively changed our bylaws to say that we will only replace up to a basic level, does that have any impact on how they value the replacement value? So it's just one thing that I'm curious about, because we do have a lot of folks that, we have a lot of upgraded units that are bumping up our value, our replacement value. So thank you.
Thank you. A couple candidates have mentioned the April 12th Insurance Town Hall. For anyone who's unable to attend, it is going to broadcast on Rossmore TV, so just check the TV guide and you'll be able to see when that will air. Going back to our questions, we're now going to go to Roy. With no more fixed routes and bus driver shortages affecting days and hours, what would you do to improve the bus service?
My understanding is during the COVID that we cancel all those services. I do not have a particular answer for it because I think there are financial restraints on. However, I would like to have another proposal. Perhaps we can look into residents as a volunteer Uber services to help those people who need it. Because one day we're all going to need that. So I hope we can start some kind of a volunteer Uber services at Rossmore to help those needed people. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne?
Our transit system or design was created decades ago. There's a very good chance that there are alternatives that would suit us better than the current system. I have to say, though, the majority of people that talk to me about the transit system think that it's a positive system. The on-demand system seems to be more efficient for them than waiting for a schedule. But I will also add that we have a transit study already budgeted, and that will provide us with facts about what's really going on in the transit system and what are alternatives. What are things that we're in the 21st century now. What are things that we could possibly consider implementing here that would better serve what's needed by the residents? Thank you.
Thank you. Ted?
So in my court, I have two people who use Dial-A-Ride, and they are ecstatic about it. They really like what it does for them. I personally don't use the bus, so, I mean, I do a lot of walking all over, more walking than I do driving in Rossmore. So I don't have a need to use the bus, and so I can only go from what I heard. And like I say, the two people who use it, both use walkers and both use it to go outside of Rossmore, inside Rossmore, and they really like the system. Last year we had 15,156 dial-a-ride call-ups, and that's a big number of people using buses. One thing that in the future for us is we are set up to be a pilot model for autonomous buses. And I'm not sure how that is going to work for everybody here, but that is something that is going to be coming to Rossmore, and that might be something that can be set up for fixed routes and to run around Rossmore at set times, and you'll know when they'll come to the bus station and the bus stop, and be able to catch a ride to wherever you want to go. So there is some things in the future that we're using future technology on, and the system seems to be working really good right now, from what I hear.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Well, I'm no expert on the transportation or transit industry for sure, but I recognize that the bus service does serve the needs of a certain segment of Rossmore's population, and I think that's important. I think some of the points that Leanne brought up about there has to be a better way to do this, a more efficient way to do this, is true. And I have to say that every time I see one of those buses go by and it's either empty or it has one person in it, it just makes me cringe at what that's doing cost-wise and also to the environment. So I think we need to be creative and come up with a better solution while recognizing that there are people in Rossmore that really need this transportation.
Thank you. Melanie?
Thank you. A lot of what the other folks have said, I completely agree with, and I'm super excited for that pilot program. I think it was called BEEP, but we've been talking about that. If you go back, I think since 2022, I would love to see some sort of actual milestones put around that project so that we can actually look towards it. It's also great that we are having a transportation study, because I do think we need to rethink about what it is we're doing. The impact that the pandemic had meant that you stopped having those fixed routes. It is so hard to get back that momentum, because the nature of a fixed route is that it's fixed and then people work it into their schedules. Once you remove that, you lose the user base, and it's very hard for people to sort of weave that back in. So I understand why we're doing the dial-up service so that you can have this one-off, but I also see those empty buses, and actually a lot of them park up on Pine Knoll to sort of sit for a while. So anyway, very happy to hear that we're doing the study. I do think that we need to pay attention to this as an amenity, just like we do all of the other amenities and services that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
I believe in being succinct. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the BEEP program is actually run by Contra Costa Transportation Authority. So while we've given them permission to come in and use our roads, it's not our program. Okay, so now we're going to go on to question 10. We're going to start with Leanne. My mutual is talking about ending our management agreement with MOD. I lived through that already, and a company outside the gate was really expensive. I know GRF and the mutuals are separate, but what can you do as a director to improve the relationship between the mutuals and the GRF/MOD?
Difficult topic. So the mutuals are customers of MOD. After many difficult years stemming mainly from the pandemic, MOD is working diligently to improve their communication with mutuals and meet their requirements. That is what the directors are promoting, and that seems to be working. We're making headway in that regard. MOD is a nonprofit. That means that any surplus accumulated in their fiscal year is returned to the mutuals at the end of that year. If mutuals decide to go for a property management that's a for-profit company, there's not going to be any surplus handed back. There's going to be rates that bring profit to that property management company. It will not be transparent. Mutuals will not be privy to the budget of that company. It's going to be a very expensive venture. So what's my point? My point is I see MOD as a better alternative. Yes, it's not perfect, but it is getting better every month. They're getting more conscientious and more meeting the requirements that are required. Sorry.
Thank you. Ted?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add than that. It's except that we have 23 mutuals, and it is difficult to get 23 mutuals to all agree to the same verbiage in a management agreement. And they all have to agree 100%. If one mutual says, I don't want to agree with that, we're back to the drawing boards, and we're figuring out to get the right wording that we can. And when we change the wording so that we like this mutual likes it, we get another mutual that might not like the way that it was done for this, the wording over here. So it's very difficult to get this done. We got to keep working on it. We're a family here. We got to keep working and figure a way that we're all going to be able to know that we're working for the end result for everybody, for it to be better for everybody. And sometimes egos get in the way, and it's difficult. I wish I had a better answer for this, but it's something that we are going to continue to work on and continue to move forward on, and hopefully we learn and get better at it.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Yeah, I think working together is the key here. I think that it can't be the mutuals versus GRF, or GRF up here not explaining things to the mutuals. I think it does have to be a family, and families sometimes have discord, but they work through things for the good of all. And I think that that's what's really important. I think that GRF needs to be better at communicating what the services that we offer are. I know that until I was on the GRF board, I didn't really understand the vast array of services that get provided through MOD. And I think the other thing is that we have some amazing people who work for MOD, and those people need to be showcased to not only to just the mutual boards, but also to the residents as a whole. And I think we've been trying to do that with the Zoom casts that we have going. But I think that that's something that's important. I think the other thing is MOD is a really good deal. We had a little board item regarding increasing the service cost of the MOD, and when you compare that to what the other contractors out there would be charging the mutuals, it's a really good deal, and I think that we need to work better to make people understand that.
Thank you. Melanie?
Thank you. I think this question is actually has two pieces. One is on cost, and the other is on the relationship. And you really have to think about how we're defining expensive, or what the cost is. Is it just the management fee, or are we also including the millions in system upgrades, the 10 to 15 million for new offices? That's really expensive. So we actually have multi-layered ways that we pay for MOD. The mutuals and GRF need to define what type of relationship it wants to have with MOD. And all should be aware, this has not been done. MOD does not have success metrics or KPIs to which they are held, and this is not their fault. And it's not fair to them. The GRF and the mutuals need to put these in place. And the sentiment that I've heard from GRF is that there's this sort of wall that GRF is completely separate from the mutuals, and GRF can't do anything if there's a mutual issue. But this sentiment in and of itself is actually a problem. GRF owns our property manager and is directly responsible for our relationship with MOD. And so as residents, we experience this hands-off approach as friction. And so I think GRF just needs to set a standard of care. We need to be honest about the services that we can and cannot provide. And until we do that, we're going to continue to experience that friction. But I agree, it does not need to be an all or nothing, and we should co-build this together.
Thank you. Diana?
When I moved into Rossmore and I had everything in boxes, I was walking out the door and my feet went squish, squish, squish. I looked for the source of the water. My water heater had exploded, apparently. And my washing machine was running at the same time, so I really didn't know where the source of the water was. So I called Maud. Immediately, somebody from Securitas came out, made sure the water was turned off properly, made sure there wasn't any problem with the gas. A plumber was out on a Saturday putting it in. These are wonderful benefits of having GRF do the bargaining for us. We get service agreements that other people couldn't get because of our scope and the size of what we're bargaining with. So I am totally in support, of GRF being the managing partner, using its size to get these benefits. For instance, had a lot of sewer issues in the current residence that I'm in right now. Great service agreements, Roto-Rooter's out within 4 hours. If you lived outside the gates, you wouldn't get these benefits of us. I do understand, after talking to some of our board members, that there has been some issues with communication, with staff turnover. Certainly that's something that needs to be addressed to improve, and that's something that I'd like to bring my expertise in with process improvement to look at, to analyze, and to improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I think MOD, on one hand, is trying very hard. On the other hand, it is short of competence to do a lot of things. The only reason driving me here today is MOD. And I've seen 4 projects last year they did. None of them could be, I hate to use words, I don't think they have a permit. And they did a lot of wrong things. So as in my agenda, we have a lot of talented people in this community. We should provide it to help MOD to improve, to meet the quality should be. That's my opinion.
Thank you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the forum, we want to go ahead and give each candidate a chance for 90 seconds of closing statements. So we are at that point now, and we'll start with Ted.
I believe you were going to talk about number 11.
Well, we would if we had time. But in order to give everybody a chance, you're welcome to, there were 2 more questions on the list. We've run out of time for that. You are welcome to address 11 or 12 as part of your closing statements. But again, I want to be sure everyone has 90 seconds before we get to that 12:30 hour. So Ted, go ahead.
So I'm really happy that I'm getting a chance to spend another 3 years on this board, and looking forward to what we can do, the new board will be able to do for Rossmore and looking into the future. The board isn't, even though it's a 3-year term that I'll be on, we're really looking 10 years in advance on Rossmore. Rossmore's 60 years old, and it doesn't look it. When you look at the event center in Creekside and the gym we have and Gateway here, the design of it, it's attractive. You go to other in my previous life, I was in the food business and 18 years in sales of that, and I got to see 2/3 of California. Many of those accounts were retirement communities and gated communities. And a lot of those are newer, setups. Rossmore was one of the newest things. It was new to the whole United States when it came on 64 years ago. And so I think that this is an exciting time to keep Rossmore looking great and bringing it into the future and make it a better place for all the members to live here.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Well, I just want to say that I am thrilled to live in Rossmore. It is a beautiful place, and I appreciate it every day. I'm also very, very fortunate to be able to be on this board and to work through some of these issues. Personally, I like to make things work, and I like the challenges of maybe not having enough funding over here to do everything you want. You can do some of the stuff you want, but balancing all that and all the interests of all the residents of Rossmore is something that's challenging, and it's also something that's very rewarding. I'd also like all of us to focus on the positives that we have here in Rossmore and to overcome some of the negativity that I think unfortunately has been flying around. I don't think that's constructive, and I don't think it's really part of Rossmore. So, and over the next 3 years, I'd like to foster more communication and transparency on the board level in order to get rid of some of the negatives. Thanks.
Thank you. Melanie?
Thank you. First, thank you for listening to everything that we all have to say. Making informed decisions is paramount, and you have an opportunity to pick from a wonderful pool of great candidates. What I will say in support of my candidacy is the work that I have begun to ensure that we are building a great resident-driven community started well before I was even aware that there was a position open on the board, and it will continue after, regardless of the election outcome. I've spoken with many residents and throughout District A, and I want you to know that I see you and I hear you, and I also feel a lot of the same stressors. I truly understand the financial constraints and the real fear that many folks have that they will no longer be able to stay here. I will always be your advocate, and I am committed to this community. If I am on the board, I will ensure your voice is heard and that decisions are made in your best interests. It would be an honor to serve District A, and I do hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
Well, I've been here 20 years. I love living here. I think this is a fabulous, fabulous place, and I am grateful for the work that all the volunteers have done to keep it maintained and improved. So thank you, incumbents. I appreciate your work. So I have an education in graduate work at MIT, and I have an MBA in executive management. And I've had 40 years of business experience with some really tough companies who are highly competitive and know how to really manage. So I'm not as versed in a lot of the issues that you've heard today, because I've only come to think about running for the board very recently when I was approached to do this. But what I can promise you is I will bring an ability to analyze things, to see things, to improve processes, to put in place, quality assurance metrics, all of the things that I've done in my business career. I also have the ability to compromise and to negotiate. And these are the things I can promise you I will do. In light of transparency, I'm heading to Creekside after this concludes, and I invite any of you to join me. I'm happy to speak more about my candidacy and my qualifications and my views.
Thank you. Roy?
Yes, I remember John F. Kennedy has a famous saying, do not ask what U.S. can do for you, but ask yourself what you can do for the U.S. So my comment here is, I'm still physically can handle in the service and contribution. So I would like to continue Rossmore tradition, trying to improve it. And so the next 60 years will even getting better than right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne?
Yes, you might have noticed that throughout these discussions, I've been stressing the idea of basing decisions on facts. That is incredibly important, and that's how we function on the board. It takes time to learn facts, and I would ask residents to take that time to learn the facts before spreading rumors. You hear a rumor, it's upset you, take the time to find out if it's true. Contact us, write grb@rossmore.com. And with that, I'd like to address a little bit about transparency. We try to be very transparent, and here are the different ways that you can find facts. Rossmore news articles, meeting announcements and summaries, myrossmore.com, public meetings, speaking out at public meetings, writing GRF, online agendas, online minutes, town halls, and Zoom coverage. Those are 10 different ways that residents can find out facts in addition to asking us personally. I implore you to do that before expressing a rumor. And also, we're in a very contentious election season. Please take the time to remember to be civil. It's a stressful time. It's not dissimilar to COVID and the fear and the stress we felt then. Please, let's be conscious of civility. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all 6 of our candidates who just spent the last hour and a half sharing their views and their issues. Thank you very much. As a reminder, the 3 incumbents had no opposition, so they've already won by acclamation. The 3 candidates in District A are up for election. Ballots will be mailed to the homes in District A. So if you check your mail, if you live in First Mutual, you may be part of District A. If you're not sure, you can go on rossmore.com on the Golden Rain Foundation page and look at the district map. It will show you the addresses that are part of that district. The ballots are due back by close of day on Thursday, May the 2nd. And finally, all of the returning and our newly elected District A candidate will be seated on the board at the annual and organizational meeting, which will be held here in Peacock Hall on Monday, May 13th at 9:30 a.m. Thank you again for coming.